Hey, joining us is a man who is no stranger to the Observer. I want to say a special good evening to UNC Senator Wade Mark. Pleasant good evening to you, sir.
Yes, good evening to you, Mikee K, and your listening audience throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and the region and the world.
Thank you so much. Let's kick things off here. I know there's a lot taking place, and I also know that there are some things on the agenda that was laid in the Senate. If you can share with us, please.
Well, last Tuesday was Private Members Day, and I did put on the agenda a couple of weeks before last Tuesday the whole issue of the Dragon gas field, because Trinidad and Tobago, as you know, Mikey K, has some serious challenges in natural gas production. We haven't discovered natural gas in any sizable quantities for some time now. And what has been going on is that we have been experiencing a precipitous decline in our natural gas production, which peaked sometime in 2009 up to 2014, when we produced, as a small economy, some 4.2 billion cubic feet of natural gas. Today, as we speak, that has declined to some 2.5 to 2.6. Now, just remember the Point 410 plant, which is the Atlantic LNG plant, to operate at full capacity, they need a sizable amount of natural gas to liquefy. Right now, for my information, they are operating between 60 and 70% capacity. You also need natural gas to run the Point Lisas estate. Down there, several plants have been closed, and they too are operating just under 75%. I say all this to let you know that the government, because of its monumental failure to address exploration and drilling for new natural gas finds, particularly in the deep waters of Trinidad and Tobago, has found itself in a situation where the living standards, the quality of life, can experience a catastrophic decline in the coming years if we do not find the quantity of natural gas to bring this country back up to that level of 4.2 billion cubic feet of natural gas per day. So what the government has been doing since 2015 is putting all their eggs in the Dragon gas basket. So we have had a situation where the government has been leading discussions through the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, along with the Prime Minister, with the authorities in Venezuela. And what is the target, Mikey K?
Yeah.
The target is 4.3 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in the Dragon gas field.
Yeah, but Senator, let me ask you something. I mean, a lot is taking place around that now. I mean, we're looking at some geopolitical issues that have arisen in as far between Venezuela and Guyana. And more voices have been added to the fact that this Dragon gas deal may never materialize. I mean, when you look at what's being said on the U.S. side of it, they themselves are looking to make some moves. I don't want to use the word sanctions, but make some diplomatic moves on Venezuela, because they themselves have crossed the deadline, which is Venezuela, to release American prisoners and an exchange of different should I say, value of some different things. Now, with all that said, why are we still being sold that this is the best deal since sliced bread? And why are we still hitching our economic wagon onto this deal when in fact it's clear to see there's so many things that are hindering this thing from becoming a reality?
And Mikee K, you are absolutely correct and on the button. That is the $1,000,000 question that the population has to put to both the Prime Minister and his acolyte, Stuart Young. Because you have hit the nail on the head. There are so many uncertainties surrounding this so-called dragon gas deal. Why would the government hitch their wagon on this particular gas field only and not really explore within our own waters, deep waters, exercises through the issuing of bids through blocks issued to multinational corporations like BP, Woodside, Shell, EOG, so they can drill and they can explore in our deep waters for natural gas. Mikee K, the government is into its 9th year. And would you believe only a few months ago, a few weeks ago, the government issued bid rounds for deep water drilling for natural gas. And they issued 17 blocks for bidding to explore for natural gas in the deep waters. Only 3 out of the 17 blocks were taken up. And they were taken up in a consortium involving Shell, BP, and some other entity. What was the government doing for the past 9 years before this decision to explore and to drill through bids into deep waters for natural gas supply? Why?
And that's a good question. That's a good question. Yeah.
And the question also, Mikee K, that we have to ask the Lauren Manatee field. You remember the president of Venezuela has agreed with the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to unitize the Lauren side, which is about 2.7 trillion cubic feet, which is 27% of that entire gas field. We have been given the all clear to begin to drill, put down pipelines, put down platforms in order to pipe the 2.7 trillion cubic feet of gas to our land, Point Lisas and Point 410. Right. Now, why could not the government, Mikee K, conscious of the fact that we have 2.7 trillion cubic feet of gas in our waters, unlike the Dragon Field that is in Venezuelan waters? Why did the government of Trinidad and Tobago not invest, not attract multinational corporations? Because we don't have the capacity. They shut down Petrotrin, and Petrotrin used to engage in drilling and exploration. Heritage is a waste of time.
Yeah, but Senator, but Senator, I mean, this thing is being highlighted time and time again. However, we are being told by the Energy Minister, Stuart Young, that, listen, there are certain things that are too fragile, too sensitive to get into. He spoke about the fact that the partnership administration had entered into some deals, and he, for no reason at all, is going to bring it to the public. But all of this, of course, all this verbal acrobatics is not giving us clarity as far as transparency into how we expect for this thing to become a reality. As we said, the whole fact of it is now compounded with a geopolitical issue between Guyana and Venezuela. But our economy that has been stagnant for quite some time, and we mean quite some time, even prior to the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, doesn't seem to be getting started anytime soon. There's nothing there that seems it's going to reignite and bring about something that we could say in the future, these are the plans that we need to put in place, besides being taxed to death as citizens and consumers in this country. So where do we go from here?
And you again, Mikee K, you are hitting the nail on the head. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has really not focused on fundamental economic transformation of its economy in the interest of our population, aimed at improving and increasing our standard of living. What the government has been focusing on for the last 9 years is only the dragon gas. There are so many other activities, economic activities, whether it's tourism, whether it's ramping up manufacturing, whether it's even giving out bids and awarding bids for deep water drilling and exploration. You have a lot of activities. Sports is a very important area that can generate foreign exchange. You remember the medical field can also be an area to generate foreign exchange.
Right.
Don't ever forget that when the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa, under the partnership, built that hospital called the Couva Children's Hospital in Couva, it was all part of a plan to diversify our earnings of foreign exchange. We could have brought people from the Caribbean, both adults and children, for medical attention, medical care, and they would have been able to pay in foreign exchange. You remember that in central Trinidad, you have the aquatic center.
Yes.
You have the velodrome, the cycling velodrome.
That's right, Senator. Senator, you're right. Medical tourism, as far as even sports tourism, and all of these things are all good and well. But none of that exists now. And I want to take you to something here that seems to be so important. According to the World Bank, the labor force total in Trinidad and Tobago is somewhere around 678,000. According to the statistics coming out of the central bank here, the labor force participation rate is a little above 50%, and that's of 2022, which is about 339%. That is, 339,000 is actively employed. I mean, what does that tell us?
Now, this is a very important concept that you have touched upon. Now, Mikee K, as we speak, at this hour, the last data we got from the CSO is 594,600 citizens who are in the labor force. Now, remember, there is a concept called the non-institutional population. Those that consist rather of persons in the age range of 15 years to just under 65 years. So could you imagine if you have a labor force of 594,000 and you have a non-institutional population of 1,081,000, you're talking about just about over 400 and maybe 450,000 of our citizens who are capable of providing labor to the market. But because of the absence of, let's say, clear thinking, a clear strategy, a clear vision to transform our economy and to generate opportunities for employment for our young people, you have close to 400,000 to 450,000 people who are currently not in the labor force. So you just think about the impact that is having on production, on output, on economic development, on overall activity, whether it's productivity, on employment, on the possibility of generating greater levels of employment. And that is a very important concept. Now, right now, as we speak, the labor force participation rate stands at around 55.4%.
Okay.
Now, since the PNM came into office in 2015, it was around 60%. And then it began a steady decline, a persistent decline into the 50s. It was 55, it was 54, then it went to 53, then it went to 59. Now it is 55.4%. Now Little Bahamas is 70%. You see, Mikey, there is an inextricable link, an inextricable connection between the higher rate of labor force participation rate and your gross domestic product, which is the total value of goods and services produced in any country within a 12-month cycle. So the higher your participation rate is the higher your production output, the higher your GDP, the higher your levels of employment, the higher the levels of productivity. And consequently, you'll have an improvement in the quality of life and the standard of living. But the PNM, over the last few years, 9 years, have paid no attention whatsoever to this concept. So what has resulted?
And so, Senator, let me. So it's trending downwards. I need to ask you then. This is in essence can give us a direct reasoning as to why the NIB is in its current state.
Well, that is a fundamental reason for the state of play at the NIB, because there's a direct link between contributions and the level of revenues and income that the NIS currently enjoy. Do you know that as we speak, between 2015 to the current time, we have lost, that is the NIB, has lost close to 120,000 contributors to the National Insurance Scheme. Wow. So those are people who were contributing to the NIS for the last 9 years. But during that 9-year period, because of massive termination of employment, because of relentless retrenchment of workers by this regime, manifested in the closure of Unilever, manifested in the closure of Petrotrin, manifested in the closure of Titco, and many other industries and government companies, both in the private sector and the public sector, have all collapsed. Now, with those companies collapsing, workers can no longer contribute to the NIS. So hence the reason the NIS is facing collapse, is facing a serious challenge. Hence the reason, Mikee K, the government has accepted a recommendation which has been approved by the board of the National Insurance Scheme to do what, Mikey? Increase the retirement age for you to access your NIS contribution of $3,000. upon reaching the age of 60 years and having made 750 contributions, you are entitled to $3,000 as a pensioner who has contributed for several decades monies to the NIB. So the government is now saying, Mikee K, if you want to go at the age of 60 years, having made your 750 contributions, you have to go minus 30%.
Yeah, but Senator, I mean, when you listen to all of this and you see what's taking place here, it's not a give and take situation. It's a give, and we simply get nothing in return. I mean, you're going to tax us to death. You're going to tell us, listen, based on the incompetence and the mismanagement, you will now have to go a longer distance as far as working in order to get anything at the end of the day. And that is totally unfair to the citizenry who have put their shoulders to the wheel, who have toiled in the vineyards and brought about a productive country, to now be told by a government that simply either doesn't care, it simply doesn't know how, or what needs to be done to say, listen, you're going to have to deal with this because this is the best we could come up with. How unfair is that?
No, Mikey, you would know the good book tells us where there is no vision, the people perish. And what is happening in our beloved country is that you have a group of carpetbaggers and modern day gangsters like Ali Baba and the 40 thieves have now landed 9 years ago in Trinidad and Tobago, and they have raped, they have plundered, they have pillaged our national treasury, and they have not brought one foreign investor into Trinidad and Tobago over the last 9 years. In fact, Mikee K, we have a negative outflow of foreign investment in Trinidad and Tobago to the tune of close to $1 billion. So there is no vision, there is no economic strategy, there are no plans to diversify and to transform our economy, to generate new revenue streams, to generate new foreign exchange streams. Mikee K, would you believe that when this criminal administration came into power in 2015, our foreign debt was just under $3 billion US dollars. Today, our foreign debt stands at over $5.3 billion US dollars. Now, you know, to repay foreign exchange, foreign debt, you must earn foreign dollars, you must earn US dollars. But where's the investment? But I don't know if you're aware. But let me bring it to your attention. Do you know since they closed down Petrotrin under all kinds of fabricated lies, half-truths, innuendos, and a campaign of misinformation and disinformation, and they have brought something into being called barrier fuel trading? Mikee K, would you believe that over the last 5 years, we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, have spent in the importation of refined fuel products over $5 billion US dollars? We have spent over $5 billion US dollars. You know, we are re-exporting our fuel to the Caribbean. You know, what is the total export in terms of what we use here, and we get TT dollars, and what we export to CARICOM? We get in return $2.6 billion. You know what is the loss that we are experiencing? Close to $2.7 billion US dollars. So this whole plan to shut down Petrotrin has ricocheted in our faces.
Yeah,
because Paria is one of the largest users of our scarce foreign exchange because they generate no foreign exchange whatsoever.
And you're so correct.
And,
Senator,
and Mikey K,
quickly, go ahead, closing comments, go ahead.
energy security is critical for our sovereignty and our independence. If you are dependent on outside sources and outside forces for your energy supply, you are at their mercy. And that is what this criminal PNM administration has put our country in. They have put us and exposed us to the elements out there so that we are now exposed to any vulnerabilities and any exposure as it relates to shortfalls in the supply of oil. Or when oil goes up, our refined products goes up, and we have to spend more foreign exchange in order to secure supplies to keep our economy moving.
Very unfortunate. Senator, I want to thank you so much for taking time out here this evening. I mean, you've really told us a lot. I don't know if people understand how serious it is. I mean, you have many of the economists weighing in and saying that the middle class has been wiped out. And it makes you wonder exactly what is going to happen to our economy, what's going to happen to our living, what's going to happen to the future of our beloved Twin Island Republic. I want to thank you so much again, and we will, of course, be checking in with you periodically. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mikey K, and good evening.
Thank you so much.